Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we are based, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and extend that respect to the elders past and present.
The speaker series will be divided into two parts. The first part will be informational and hosted by our speaker, Nathan Lam, and the second part will be a fun activity, which is Origami for today. So Nathan will be talking about prioritization, so I'll hand it over to him.
All right, thanks, Muskin. Hi guys, my name is Nathan, as Muskin already introduced me as. Just a little bit of background about myself. I'm a recent graduate from UNSW. I studied a Bachelor of Computer Engineering, and I've worked at a bunch of places, including like Macquarie Bank and freelancer.com, as well as a couple other smaller places. The key to doing more is trying to do less. I learned this the hard way. In my third year at uni, I was working 3 jobs. I was an executive of EWB, and I was doing a full load of university. I was doing so much, I was learning so much, but I was also regretting so much. In retrospect, I was an idiot. And looking from another person's perspective, it was obvious, but sometimes it's hard to see the bigger picture when you're down in the trenches. When I felt busy, I also felt like I was achieving so little. I wasn't proud of much of the work I did. I lived by the mantra, close enough is good enough. This meant I hacked together ugly solutions for everything. In some respects, not being a perfectionist is good. It means you won't experience analysis paralysis too much, but it also kicks yourself in the foot. For example, in my operating systems course, I only ever did 2.5 out of the 4 assignments. I left the rest to my partner. In the end, I still passed the course, but I regret not learning it properly because I needed it for the next year's course and my future job. After not 1, not 2, but 3 months of torturing myself, I finally had the epiphany that I needed to take action. But what could I do? I couldn't just quit my jobs and let down my co-workers. Besides, it was kind of nice having actually money in the bank. I couldn't quit EWB and let down everyone who voted me in. And I certainly couldn't drop out of uni and get disowned by my parents. So I made the only logical choice. I kept doing everything for another 3 months. I didn't want to disappoint anyone, so I thought the only way was to roll up my metaphorical sleeves and keep going. But I didn't realize that by doing so, I was disappointing everyone. My family, my friends, my colleagues. I was hardly home to help out with the chores. My friends were getting tired of me running late and flaking, and my colleagues were far from pleased with the quality of my work. But I was so busy that I couldn't see the bigger picture. Finally, though, over the Christmas break of 2018, I had the time to pause. I had the first proper 2-week holiday that I had in 3 years. No work, no commitments, no regrets. In that time, I learned a new programming language, I read a book, and I played games without feeling guilty. I was happy, and that was something I hadn't felt for a long time. I started to ask myself, what was the point of all of it? Why earn money? Why volunteer? Why study? After the holiday, I spoke with my product owner at work. In case you aren't familiar with the role, a product owner or product manager makes all the decisions about their product. What feature to build, when to build it, and how to build it. Essentially, their job is to prioritize. I knew my product manager was extremely productive. He manages to exercise, read a book, and do some learning all before coming to work at 7 a.m. Not to mention he has 2 kids that he was very close with. So I asked him for advice on how he balances everything for the product and in his life. He recommended me 2 books, The One Thing by Gary Keller and Essentialism by Greg McKeown. I read them both, and I discovered the dirty truth. The key to doing more is trying to do less. It's a simple truth that most people already know, but those books validated it even more. In The One Thing, it describes a Harvard researcher by the name of Clifford Nass trying to find the secret gift of multitaskers. In 2009, he gave 262 students a questionnaire asking them how often they multitask. The group then split into high and low multitasker groups. In the end, they discovered that high multitaskers were just worse in every measure. Nath said that multitaskers were just lousy at everything. Some older research from 2001 showed that switching between tasks can cost as much as 40% of someone's productive time. The accuracy of that number may vary, but the idea that context switching has a negative impact on your productivity is no different. Even in a computer where you have multi-threading, there is a cost for a computer to switch between tasks. How can a human say that we can do any better? These days, I now have one and only one job. I work at an edtech startup called CodeCreate. Some may say entrepreneurship is another name for unemployment, or at least that's what my parents think, but it wasn't my only choice. I actually received 3 graduate offers. One was from Macquarie Bank, one from freelancer.com, and one from CodeCreate. To understand why I made this choice, we need to understand the why behind our lives. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What makes you push through the boring and sometimes pointless uni courses? Each one of us has a different why. Some of you may not know yet what your why is, but this is the first step you need to take. Define where you want to be. In other words, you need to define what success looks like for you. Some just want money, some want a family, some just want to invent something cool. Each one is a perfectly valid goal, and they're not all mutually exclusive. You can have money and have a family and invent something cool. Also, don't be afraid to dream big. Think about where you want to be in 10 years' time. Aim to earn $1 million. Aim to give your kids an awesome childhood. Aim to eradicate cancer. The important part is to have a clear vision of where you want to be. For me, my goal is to equalize people's access to opportunities, regardless of their background. To me, the key is access to education. Once someone is educated, so many doors open up for them. Finding your why is probably one of the hardest parts, but it's the one thing you should focus on figuring out. It's particularly hard when you feel like you just don't know enough yet. My 3 tips for this are: 1, seek new experiences. This could be in the form of trying new foods, traveling to new places, or just trying to talk to new people. The wider exposure to everything is critical for you to know what matters to you. For me, going on something like the EWB Design Summit was a great experience, pushing me into an entirely different world with new food, new people, and an entirely new culture. It truly opened my mind to different possibilities. 2, finding role models. Identify who you admire and what it is about them that you like. For me, I love reading and listening to the stories of different founders. This ranges from the founder of Starbucks, Howard Schultz, to the founder of Microsoft, Bill Gates. Howard Schultz and Starbucks are renowned for the care that they give to their employees. They care so much that they pay for the college tuition of any member of an employee's family. Meanwhile, Bill Gates is a legend in the tech industry, as well as philanthropy. He has made the largest individual donation to charity in the world. These founders should show that doing good in the world and earning money are not mutually exclusive. Number 3, be curious. Have a desire to understand the why behind everything. Why was this made? Who made it? How was it made? With Google at your fingertips, no one has an excuse to be curious these days. Sorry, to not be curious these days. A great way to do this is to keep notes on any questions you have throughout the day. This way, you can go back and search later if you didn't have time early on. I use Google Keep and Notion to record everything, and they're on my phone for easy access. The next step after you've set your goal or goals is to work backwards from there. Figure out what are the milestones you need to achieve to get there. By setting these milestones, you're laying down waypoints for your life's journey. A great way to do this is to ask yourself, where do I want to be in 5 years' time? Where do I want to be in 2 years' time? 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, 1 month. Remember that this doesn't have to be a perfect timeline. It's just giving you an idea of the path you want to take. You'll find that by doing this exercise, it brings a lot of clarity to the choices you make today. To reach my goal of making education accessible, I realized it's important to have money to make a difference. Bill Gates has so much money now that he can increase the life expectancy of an entire continent. In other words, I need wealth. One path to wealth is a business, since that means you're creating assets rather than you being an asset to someone else. This can create a passive income, which you can build more on. But how do I start a business? Well, I can start from scratch, or I can join a smaller company to figure out how. One seems like the more obvious choice. But I also need skills that I can offer the company. So I need a fast way to upskill myself and also build a reputation. So I could go do an internship at a bigger company. As we continue further and further down the rabbit hole, what you need to do today becomes clearer and clearer. Eventually, you know what you need to do next, but also what choices to take if a new opportunity arises. For example, I got an internship offer from Freelancer. I was initially hesitant, but it was meant to be focused on front-end web development, which was an area that I was much weaker at. This would make me a more well-rounded developer who actually has a valuable skill for a startup. It's also good to reevaluate the closer milestones regularly, so you can fix them if you feel like you're going off track. I do this every year at New Year. I create goals for 4 different categories: well-being, personal development, relationships, and career. For the last 3 years, I have reviewed the goals from the previous year and written down new ones for the next year. Most people don't believe in New Year resolutions. They make a goal, they do it for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month, but it doesn't last. This can be for a number of reasons, but building good habits is an important skill to have. Something helpful I found is my third and final step. Write it down and tell others. It's important for you that your goals are in a visible place you can check regularly. Sticky tape a page to a wall, pin a note on your phone, schedule a reminder every day or week. Do whatever works for you. You need to be able to see your goal whenever you're making a decision or rethinking a decision you've already made. To take this one step further, tell someone else, friend or family, or anyone else you regularly see or talk to. By telling them, you'll feel more accountable. You don't want to tell them, you don't want to let them down. And they might even check in on your goal from time to time. I told a few close friends of mine about my goals, and now I feel accountable to them. Every so often, they'll use it against me, like when I find myself binge watching another Netflix TV series. But after all that, I finally found my one thing, and I'm living by it. It's just 3 steps. Define what success looks like, define the checkpoint you need to achieve to get there, and write it down and tell others. But don't be confused. Prioritization is simple, not easy. Some take years to work it out, others take a lifetime. But the one thing that you should focus on is this. The key to doing more is trying to do less. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Nathan. I can honestly say I know I definitely benefit from a lot of those points. Okay, now we've got just a small couple of questions just to find out some more things about you. If you could go back to your first year self and give yourself one tip to do with prioritization, what would you tell yourself?
I tell myself not to rush things. I think I was keen to just try everything and do as much as I could in like the first few years, but life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And if you burn out early, you're going to pay the consequences later on.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It can be so stressful trying to do everything at once. Are there any game recommendations that you'd give for everyone who's been through Corona? And what games did you play with your friends to socialize?
So recently I picked up Minecraft again. A mate of mine opened up a Minecraft server and I've been playing it maybe once or twice a week. I'm not exactly a gaming connoisseur, so to speak. A while back, I was playing this game called Banished, which is like a strategy game, kind of similar to Civilization, but on a smaller scale. It really depends what you're into, whether it's battle royales or strategy games.
They're a lot more complex than my ones. We mainly played Scribbler.
Scribbler is a great game too. The whole Jackbox suite is pretty good.
Oh yeah, they're amazing. Do you have any advice for anyone currently trying to do uni work, internships, and everything online?
I think the key is to, one, how are you feeling? If you're feeling overwhelmed by it, think about what you can cut back on. Last term, I actually dropped university tutoring partway through, and there's no shame in that. If you honestly feel like you can't do as good of a job now because you're just splitting your focuses so much, you're doing yourself a favor, you're doing your students a favor. It's just a win-win all around.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And our last question, was it stressful graduating in term 1 during the current world environment? And what advice would you give people who will be graduating next term?
I think for me, I was in a lucky place because I'd already gotten positions or offers from different places. So I wasn't feeling too stressed. I've also worked remotely for a lot of my uni career. So that the transition into the work environment now actually hasn't been too different for me. But I think one piece of advice for anyone that is soon to graduate or just in general in a work remote environment is to keep a regular routine and also have boundaries in the areas that you want to work. So try to wake up at the same time every day. I've personally tried to wake up at 7 every day and go for a run, then take a shower, breakfast, and then hit work after that. Having that regular routine really keeps you motivated. And also having designated areas for recreation, work, and just any other aspects of your life. Trying to just sit in your room all day can make you a little crazy sometimes. You want to sleep, but you're thinking about work, or you want to just play some games and you're still thinking about work. Having defined boundaries, like spatial boundaries, is really helpful.
I've talked to people and personally experienced that issue in my life, and I can say I've found organizing out the day has been quite effective too. Okay, that rounds up that section of our speaker series. So thank you so much for coming back and sharing your wisdom with us, Nathan. It's been really great. And I hope we've helped someone out there with your wisdom.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hand everyone over to Ning, who will be going through Origami, which should be exciting.
We'll be introducing you to making origami cranes. What you need for this is just some paper, or for something fun at the end. Here are some other optional stuff: some string, a pair of scissors, and a sewing needle. I'll give everyone 1 minute to get the paper if it isn't in front of them. And while everyone is waiting, I'll explain this week's activity. So this week we'll be making some cranes, and if we have enough time at the end, I'll run you through how to make those cranes into hang decorations. Before that, we can first decorate our papers. If you have some pen or pencil on hand, we can draw some patterns or messages on one side of the paper to make things a bit more interesting. I've already printed some on mine to make the two sides more more easy to identify. At the end of this activity, the hanging part is where the string comes in. We'll use it to tie onto the crane we make so we can hang it up. The number of cranes that you want to hang is up to you, and if there's no string available, some ropes or ribbon can work as well. Okay, now let's get back to making the origami. For most origami projects, we'll need a square paper. So first we need to create our own square paper from a A4 or any other sizes of rectangular piece of paper. First we fold one of the corners of the paper into the edge, making sure the edges matches like this. And then we fold the bottom rectangle following the edge of the triangle. So what I'm doing here is going over the crease a few times to make it a bit more easier to fold. And then you can just rip it or like cut it off. Okay, it's not very straight, but it'll work. So now we have our square ready. We're ready to start making the crane. For our first step, we'll need to fold some creases onto our paper. So what I'm gonna do is fold the diagonals, one crease this way and one more crease on the other diagonal. Now we turn the paper over and then we fold a few more creases up and down the paper. So now we have these 4 creases. We can use those to bring the corners in and form like a folded square, I guess, like this. So we have the crease like this, and then we just push it inside. Like this. And then now we fold this side of the paper to the center line. Make sure it's the side that can be opened. So we fold it to the center line on both sides. It should look like this, and then we flip it over and do the same on the back. So now we have this diamond looking shape. The top should not be openable. And then when we have this, fold down the top triangle to make the crease so it's easier to open later. Something like this, and then we can open it back up. Okay, now is the tricky part. We have to open this up and try to flip it so it turns into a diamond shape. So if you can see, here are the creases that we have folded earlier. I'll just mark it with a pen so you can see properly, like this. So following these 3 creases, we'll try to push this, like following the crease, push it back, and then fold this at this crease. Push it back on both sides, and then open it up and push it down. And then you should have a diamond shape. Yeah, so something like this. Now we should flip it back over, do the same on this side. So we have this shape, and then we open the sides up and lift it up lift up like the creases here. So we fold down onto the crease. And as we press down, you see, make sure the corners are tight. As we press down, you see like the sides start to fold over. And then following the crease, we fold the top. So we end up with this shape. Now we have this. I'm just gonna spin it around. So like the triangle is over here. Okay. So now we have this. What we have to do is fold the sides. Fold the sides where this one opens. Fold it this way. Make sure the end is very pointy. And we do the same on the other side. So now you should have this shape. If I just lift it up like this, you can see we should have this shape. And then there should be 2 V's like this. And then so we flip it over and do the same on the other side. Something like this. So now the bottom should be movable. And then the top should also be movable. So you can flap it down like this. And then there's a little triangle inside, and the other side can flap down as well. So now most of this, the hardest bit is finished. And then we'll shape it into a crane next. So what we have to do is turning it over and folding both edges down on the opening. So this way we have the flaps going the other directions. So this one can lift up and down, and this one should be like separate. And here's our little triangle on the middle. And then we have this. We'll lift these 2 bits up and have something like this. And then now we turn it back. It's a bit tight, so loose a bit. Okay, we turn it back and then smooth down and fold down the tips. This. As you can see, we have the shape pretty much sorted out. So this one, we fold it down. The other one, we also fold it down. So these ones are the wings, and then these 2 are the tail and the head. What we can do now is open up this a bit by pulling it and pressing it back down on the bottom. Pull it and press it. Pull it and press it down at the bottom like this. And then for the head, pick one of them and then fold a little head onto the crane. And then now we have our crane. Okay, so now we have our crane. I'll show you how we can hang it up. So grab your string, a needle, and a piece of paper that you're not using. Cut off a section. And then for the string, we want to thread it onto our needle. this. It's a bit hard to see the string. So what I'm gonna do now is to tie a knot at the end. And then with that, we can, oh, this is a bit too long. We can sew it into our paper. And then what we have here is something to stop the crane from falling down. So now we have this. We can take our crane and going from the bottom up. Sorry, got stuck. We have something that will hang. So the paper at the bottom will stop it from will stop the string from going all the way up top, and then it can keep the crane at the place you want it. And now we have something to hang. If you want another crane on the thing, make a different knot. Or just knot a few more times so the knot is bigger. And then you should be able to see the knot like that. And then we grab our paper again, fold it, and then get the needle through the paper. And then the knot should stop the paper from going all the way down. Oh, let me see. So it should stay up like that. I have some old cranes that I made, so I'm just gonna show you with one of these. So what you do, you put it through the bottom and then try to get it through the top. And then voila, we have some hanging crane. So I put it down sideways.